So the next set of questions is about demonstration, communication, and translation. What can I do in demonstrating, explaining exercises to make my class more inclusive without losing the flow of my exercise or class? Firstly, this does take time to achieve and it takes practice, but when you get it, it's wholly satisfying. Remember what I said about not layering inclusion in. It has to be in there from the start. It's not our job as teachers to judge who can and who can't dance. We're here to serve anybody that's curious or committed to dance. And as non-disabled teachers, we can't think, well, disabled dancers should be grateful. I'm making a few changes and I've opened the door. It's about us serving everybody to access dance. So, things that could support. Maybe create exercises with different layers. Start with an outline of an exercise. Maybe you just move the spine. Then you can say, well, if you've got room for more, I'm going to add some shifts with this spine. And then if you've got room for even more, we're going to add shifts and we're going to add some arms. So you build the exercises up gradually. And it's really important for those dancers that like to move fast, that like to move quickly, that actually they take the pace down and they really think about what they're doing instead of just jumping forward into the tricks. Secondly, you want to create a journey for your dancers. So maybe you really think about the structure and how it best supports everyone. For instance, if you have a dancer that needs to come in and out of their chair, think about how you can fit this into the session. Do you work in threes and then support one person to come up to an upright position as a task? Or do you take a water break when somebody needs to get back into their chair or transfer? Or do you say to those that don't need to transfer to their chair, actually, this is a lot of effort getting into this chair. I think everybody should stay in the plank or do some press-ups until the wheelchair dancers are back in their wheelchair. Thirdly, we often use improvisation before we move into an exercise. And this can be a good way to introduce some of the vocabulary or the principles of the exercise that you're going to teach. Then those that have a different physical language to you can start to explore, research their versions or their translations. It also gives you an opportunity to watch for those variations and translations. And then you can weave that into your exercise. You can also get the rest of the group to learn this translation or this version. Finally, other things to think about. I think the dancers that have room for more, or the dancers that can take on vocabulary quite quickly and learn quite quickly, they don't need you as much as the dancers that are searching for another variation or are searching for what it is you want out of the exercise. So always demonstrate the dancers that need you for the dancers that need you the most. For instance, if you did do that layered exercise, maybe you would stick with the outline while everybody else built it up, because there's one person in your group that needs just to do the outline. And that's okay, because it's not about you as a teacher looking good as a dancer. I actually remember a couple of my teachers, probably the best teachers I had, rarely demonstrated, and one of them, my ballet teacher, never got off of her chair. How do you ensure that an online setting, both interactive or pre-recorded, you can fully support both dancers with a physical and intellectual disability? So we're learning a lot at the moment. It's been really useful to move online. We're actually accessing a lot more people, and with the current situation with the virus, it looks like we will be online for a long time to support our diverse dance community. I think it's really good to think about inclusive dance as you would do singing practice. You often, as a singer, have one-to-one sessions with your teacher, and you work with your instrument, your voice. You're not expected to sing like a soprano if you are a bass. And so you work on your bespoke voice, and then you move to a choir where you learn to sing in harmony with everybody. But again, you stay on your on your part. So I think one-to-one support is really important if you're working with dancers who need to find their journey as a diverse dancer. Enlisting the help of carers and parents, maybe making some parents' videos on how best to support your dancer, and arranging one-to-one Zoom sessions. I would encourage smaller groups on Zoom if you really want to interact and help people get the best out of the session. With regards to going online and it not being interactive, we're making our sessions a lot shorter. We tend to follow just one theme or research one little thing. We're not trying to imitate studio practice, so we've created something new, which is home practice. And we use a lot of images, a lot of moving images, which we actually hadn't done before, because often when we'd shown it on an iPad, it took a long time to show everybody in the group, whereas now it flashes up on the screen. You can hear the teacher's voice narrating over it, and then it can fade away and the teacher can come back. This is working really well. We've also used poetry, and soundscapes have worked quite nicely, because sometimes the music can be quite overwhelming for the dancers who are trying to tune into your voice, and then there's a loud sound. Also, if you use music, sometimes the subtitles that you would be using start to pick up the lyrics, which isn't helpful for those that are reading the subtitles. We sometimes work with props, so we might bring a prop, or we might say to our students, can you go and find a squishy ball and bring it back to the screen? So we're trying to bring in everything that we have done from our inclusive practice, but we're not trying to imitate what we do in the dance studio. And as I said in the beginning, we lay out our expectations from the start, so people can start to navigate what session is going to be useful for them, how they are feeling now. And we feel that if it's pre-recorded, then people can choose to do it when they feel they can do it, when their energy is ready to do it. And that is a really important part of being inclusive. And this situation has enabled a lot of diverse dancers to access online sessions far more than they would have been able to access classes in a studio at a set time going on public transport. So in a way, this has been a really positive outcome going online to support our diverse dancers of the future. What are the options for having a visually impaired blind person take online lessons as best as possible? How can I give concrete form to my verbal explanation? So we asked Holly Thomas from Touchdown Dance Company to give us an answer. She's a visually impaired choreographer and dancer. With regard to teaching over Zoom and other remote platforms, I often think that the visual display is a distraction, and teachers should start using it, working without using the visual, and that they should design teaching that focuses upon their students' orientation of their real space rather than a visual display. I find that good yoga teachers are often the best describers of movement. So if we unravel that a bit, I think there are a lot of good audio classes out there that would be really useful for visually impaired dancers. And also, when you think about a yoga class, they often follow quite traditional flows, and there's a lot of repetition, and you're very present in that moment. You're not learning something for the future. And I think this is something that could be used in all of our practice online, that we focus less on learning something to do it better later, that we really try to live and be present in what we're doing right here, right now. If you want to find out more information about Touchdown Dance Company, Holly says she's happy to receive some questions and emails.